years, they stayed silent.
You're like, I'm just not going to say anything because that's what he told me to do.
I didn't want to say that I'd been part of something, that I felt shame.
6 women speaking out to Savannah, saying they were all sexually abused by Jeffrey Epstein.
By the time I was being raped, it was too late.
Anushka DeGiorgio now sharing her story for the first time on television. She was a teenage model from a well-off family in London when she says she met the wealthy financier.
I was involved in that kind of lifestyle growing up, and so I thought I could cope, and I thought I could handle it.
She says the abuse lasted several years.
When Jeffrey would see me, he would physically shake.
Jeffrey Epstein started his targeted grooming and manipulation of me as a child when I was in New York City for a school trip. I first came into contact with an assistant of Epstein's while on a high school drama club field trip to New York City. I was invited to his home. There, his assistant took a photo of me and then later reached out to me inviting me to Epstein's ranch. I only knew Jeffrey Epstein for 5 days. During a trip to Zorro Ranch, his massive compound surrounded by government land in the New Mexico desert.
Virginia Roberts Giuffre tells a similar story, which she has described in court paperwork, of grooming and intimidation at the hands of Epstein and his inner circle. She says Epstein not only sexually abused her, but directed her to have sex with other powerful men, including Britain's Prince Andrew. Giuffre says she was 17 when this photo was taken with the prince. Before, she says, he abused her, telling Savannah,
He wasn't rude or anything about it. He said, thank you and some kind of soft sentiments like that and left.
Buckingham Palace tells NBC News in a statement, it is emphatically denied that the Duke of York had any form of sexual contact or relationship with Virginia Roberts. Any claim to the contrary is false and without foundation. Prince Andrew has repeatedly denied Giuffre's allegations, after Epstein's death, telling NBC News, at no stage during the limited time I spent with him did I see, witness, or suspect any behavior of the sort that subsequently led to his arrest and conviction.
There is no such thing as a perfect victim. What is a perfect victim? Is a perfect victim a middle-class white girl that goes to a private school, that has a perfect family life?
Sarah Ransom says the so-called perfect female victim is pure, innocent, and doesn't exist. Those who don't fit the bill, including women like herself with a history of drug use and sex work, are often blamed for their own abuse.
It's the victim shamers and the victim blamers. They are the reason why I wrote the book.
Ransom's new book, Silenced No More, details her allegations of sexual abuse against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. But it begins with a chaotic childhood in her native South Africa, a mother who Ransom says struggled with addiction, and a rape in her childhood by a stranger that disabled her alarm system. I had no boundaries, she writes. I had no bells.
I grew up with people hurting me, strangers hurting me, and so it was my fault. There's something wrong with me. And it's taken me to about 37 years old to finally get an ounce of self-respect and self-worth back that was taken from me.
In the world of politics, who you knew can become just as important as what you did. Today, we're diving into a report on some newly discovered footage that's raising all sorts of questions about a very high-profile relationship. So, let's start right here with this quote. I was not a fan of his. Pretty clear, right? That was Donald Trump back in 2019, making his stance on Jeffrey Epstein crystal clear. This statement is really our jumping-off point for everything else.
And look, this wasn't a one-off comment. The official story for years has been one of distance. The line was that he knew Epstein, sure, but only as a fixture in Palm Beach. Basically, just another guy you see around town. And that they hadn't spoken in like 15 years.
But this is where things get interesting. Recently, some footage from way back in 1992 was dug up from the NBC archives. And, well, it seems to paint a very, very different picture.
At least one woman has come forward to say she was abused by sex offender Jeffrey Epstein while he was on work release as part of his 2007 plea deal. So that sweetheart deal had him offending again. A lawyer representing Epstein accusers said yesterday that the wealthy financier who was allowed to have visitors while he was supposed to be working during the 13-month sentence took advantage of the arrangement to engage in improper sexual contact, but added that the new accusers may not have been minors.
He was in his office most of the day, and what I can tell you is he had visitors, female visitors. I don't know that any of them were underage. And the female visitors were there not for business. What he did on a daily basis is engage in these types of sex acts with young adults and children. What he did to make his money, I don't know. What he did legitimately outside of engaging in these sexual misdeeds, I don't know. Nor do any of the witnesses that we have ever deposed.
So many questions here. Meanwhile, Epstein's lawyers explained the doctored passport found in his home, which shows Epstein's photo with a different name while listing his residence as Saudi Arabia. According to court papers filed yesterday, Epstein's lawyer said the passport was for personal protection in the event of travel to dangerous areas, only to be presented to potential kidnappers, hijackers, or terrorists should violent episodes occur, adding that Epstein's Jewish faith and ample finances made him a target in the Middle East. Attorneys say the travel document came from Austria and expired more than 30 years ago. So we want to show you now some footage from 1992 that our producers found in the NBC archives that shows Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein, who is now a sex offender and accused sex trafficker, looking at and talking about women at a party.
Welcome to the Southern White House.
Since becoming president, Donald Trump has branded Mar-a-Lago the Southern White House, a place that entertains foreign leaders, where military strikes are ordered, and whose terrace served as an open-air situation room over dessert.
And we had the most beautiful piece of chocolate cake that you've ever seen.
But in the 90s, Mar-a-Lago was Trump's South Florida party palace, one frequented by Jeffrey Epstein, who is facing charges for sex trafficking. He has pleaded not guilty. The president says his relationship with Epstein was no different than anyone else in their elite circle.
Well, I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. He was a fixture in Palm Beach. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years. I wasn't a fan.
Yet, a tape in the NBC archives of a Mar-a-Lago party shows Trump giving Epstein his personal attention.
Donald! Donald! Donald!
The footage, shot in November of 1992, before Trump opened the resort as a club, shows the future president surrounded by cheerleaders for the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins, capturing Trump's fun-loving bachelor lifestyle for an appearance on Faith Daniels' NBC talk show.
We're going to get great ratings in your show.
Trump is surrounded by women as music blares in the background. After a while, Trump goes to greet 3 new guests, among them the financier Jeffrey Epstein.
Come on in. Go inside.
More than a decade before his guilty plea on state prostitution charges. Later in the footage, Trump is seen talking to Epstein and another man as women are dancing in front of them. Trump alternates between dancing and pointing out women to Epstein and the other man and telling Epstein about the cameras. Though exactly what they say is difficult to understand as they discuss the women and their appearances, Trump gestures to one and appears to say to Epstein, "Look at her back there. She's hot." And then Trump says something else into Epstein's ear that makes him double over with laughter. But as the president says now, he never liked Epstein.
I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I was not a fan of his.
November 1992 at Mar-a-Lago. This is long before it was a private club or the Southern White House. It's just Trump's party palace. An NBC crew was there filming a segment about his bachelor lifestyle, and they ended up capturing a whole lot more than they probably realized at the time.
So what does this tape actually show? Well, you've got Trump playing the host, greeting people as they come in, and one of those people is Jeffrey Epstein. But it's not just a handshake at the door. Later, the two of them are seen standing together, just watching the women on the dance floor, laughing and talking. They look like two buddies hanging out at a party.
Now, the audio is pretty muffled because of all the party music, but according to the report, it appears Trump gestures toward a woman and says to Epstein, "Look at her back there, she's hot."
And the interaction doesn't even stop there. Trump then leans in, whispers something right into Epstein's ear, and whatever he said, it makes Epstein just double over with laughter. You know, it suggests a kind of comfortable, familiar relationship that just doesn't quite line up with the mere acquaintance story.
So the 92 tape gives us this incredible visual snapshot, but believe it or not, it's not the only piece of this puzzle. If we jump forward about a decade, Trump's own words add a whole other layer to this story. So check this out. In a 2002 interview with New York Magazine, Trump had nothing but praise. He calls Epstein a terrific guy, says he's a lot of fun to be with, and then he drops this line that has become pretty infamous. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. And this right here, this is the heart of the contradiction. You put the two statements side by side, and it's just stark. In 2002, he's a terrific guy. By 2019, Trump's not a fan. It's a complete 180. So why are we talking about all this now? I mean, a tape from 92, a quote from 02, why does it matter? To understand that, we have to look at the very serious legal situation that came to define Epstein's life. It all comes back to this: Epstein's incredibly controversial 2007 plea deal in Florida. It's often called a sweetheart deal. He served just 13 months, and most of that was on work release. Years later, he was facing brand new federal sex trafficking charges, and that put a massive spotlight back on every single one of his old connections. And the reporting on this makes one thing absolutely clear. This story is far from finished. The new federal case meant that prosecutors were digging into Epstein's world like never before. The investigation was being run by the Southern District of New York, a group known for being incredibly tough and thorough. The possibility of a full-blown trial meant that anyone and everyone who was ever in Epstein's circle was suddenly very, very nervous about what might be revealed. And all of this leaves us with the big, unsettling question at the end of the day. As investigators keep digging, what other connections, what other details are going to be brought into the open? Who else was involved? And what does the full, complete picture of Jeffrey Epstein's network actually look like?
Looks like a big fan of Epstein.
I feel like I saw Ghislaine Maxwell. I believe that's the reported recruiter for Jeffrey Epstein, and I thought she was in the background there. Again, here's what Donald Trump said to New York Magazine about Epstein in 2002. I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
And we certainly saw that there, Willie. I saw it very clearly. He and Epstein, they're very much enjoying that party. And Donald Trump saying he never liked Jeffrey Epstein, once again, proven to be a lie.
Yeah, he says, I was not a fan of his, that I can tell you. The president said that last week, obviously. He was a fan. We can see there. We can see it in the quote from 2002 in New York Magazine. It's all there. He says the relationship broke off about 15 years ago. The good news, Elise Jordan, is that the Southern District of New York is going to put all this out into the open. There's going to be a trial, and we'll get to the bottom of this. We don't know